So we are on chapter 8, football relationships in the Soccology book. In this chapter, I look at different types of relationships. So looking at the relationship with the player and agent, with family and player, with the coaches and players, but also the relationship with the game and how it's affected with time. So for example, whereas traditionally players were allowed to fall in love with football because they could be bored. Yes, social media is a part of that, which interrupts the relationship, but also fear from parents and public spaces becoming private, so there's no access. So when you've got the fear of parents allowing their kids to play out, the ones who can play out have no one to play with. You know, when I was growing up, we got chased off of public places, what should I say, sorry, private places by the police because we weren't allowed to train there, but we just loved football so much that we needed somewhere to train. So yeah, it looks at these relationships. So I think one of the biggest things that's affected football in recent years is data. So I talk about first seeing David Bentley in the academy when he played against Charlton when I was there, but playing against the younger age group, and how he exited the game and just retired because he had enough of what inspired him coming out of the game, the type of players that were getting lost and how they were now measuring how far he run instead of the things that he was creating. And I've got this, under this heading called Not the Whole Story, I give an example about data and how it doesn't tell the whole story. In a 4-year cycle, the fox population in northern Canada goes from a high to near extinction, only to spike and eventually return to its original high. The cycle repeats itself continually, and the story wouldn't give a biologist much to work with if they were to focus on the foxes alone, as there would be nothing to explain the variation in population. Open up the research to include the relationship of foxes to others, however, and you'll see the bigger picture. In this case, the foxes' relationships with rabbits. The foxes survive by eating rabbits, and the rabbits have no other enemy in the habitat yet, like the foxes. They get to the point of almost dying out, only to have a spike eventually to return to their original maximum population numbers. Marrying the cycle of the foxes and rabbits together reveals the same pattern in the opposite direction. When there are more foxes, they kill and eat more rabbits. This reduces the rabbit population and means less food for the foxes. Less food for the foxes leads to an increase in the fox deaths, which gives rabbits more time for procreation and survival. So the rabbit population increases. This in turn provides more food for the remaining foxes. So the fox population then spikes towards its original high and the cycle continues. My point is this: data can only tell you so much. It's a story, but not the whole story. So with footballers, and I use a story that, or a comment, should I say, that Gerard Piqué spoke about. He said, if you were only going to look at data, then Andres Iniesta wouldn't be the top player in the world, top attacking midfielder in the world. Because even though he scored goals and he created loads of assists, he didn't score many goals. I don't know about his assist record, but we can all say that he's one of the most amazing midfielders who have played the game. So data, it has its value, but there are some clubs who I know for a fact have been over reliant on it, and they're actually making their transfers based on data. So yeah, we go into the role of family, I was saying before, agents, and I think one of the stories for me which was quite upsetting was when Stephen Moore shared his experiences, or I should say his experience at QPR. So he spoke about breaking through at Aston Villa, playing under John Gregory. So John Gregory knew him. Stefan eventually moved to QPR. The first team manager there didn't play him. Now, when John Gregory became manager of QPR, he dropped Stefan and said, I heard you got an attitude. And this is a really big thing in football, that yes, there are issues that happen in football, and I gave this example in States where players can sometimes ruin their own game, but it's a mismanagement of emotions, etc. But there's also this gossip culture where coaches might, one, not take accountability, or two, they just form a judgment anyway, and they can ruin someone's career. Now, the staff at QPR would obviously said something to John Gregory, but the reason why this was such a big deal for me is because I thought, wow, This is a first where you actually know the player, but you're going off of hearsay, you know? So again, players' careers get ruined, but also I think that if you are a coach in the know, you could actually benefit from the downfall of other coaches. I wouldn't even say downfall, I suppose. Probably misjudgment, you know? Okay, well, if you think that, okay, I'll take him. And that's the end of that chapter.